Maria Sprehn earned her PhD in anthropology from the University of New Mexico. Her reading, writing, and museum exhibit contributions have dealt primarily with the anthropology of northern Mexico. Currently, she is focused on Latino issues, particularly attitudes and values in education. In her teaching, she focuses on engaging students with current issues in anthropology and providing research opportunities for them.
Identifying Identities, Others, and Ourselves is the title. And as you know by now, the theme is the politics of identity, race in 21st century America. And I just wanted to put up a couple of definitions. These are definitions that we talked about in class. The project that I did was in my AN 101 course, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. These are just some of my students at the exhibit Our Lives at the National Museum of American Indian. And this theme of race and identity went perfectly with this course, Introduction to Socio-Cultural Anthropology. It was almost hard to decide which museum to go to, which exhibit to go to, because there were so many connections. And thinking back in this past year, it's been a wonderful year, really had great fun. I was thinking about the different categories of people that I explored race and identity with. And really, the first group were the curators and the staff at the Smithsonian. And I felt just so privileged to be able to sit down with them and talk to them about what happens behind the scenes. And that really challenged and broadened the way I thought about these issues. And really, as professors, we all share this job of presenting cultural knowledge. And we do this by teaching, but we also challenge our students, and hopefully we also inspire our students. And I think that this project has allowed me to inspire my students even more, and I think that you'll see that by the end of this presentation. And then also I had, well, we all did, had the chance to explore these topics with one another, which was really great. So this is kind of like the second category, these wonderful professors that came together, and I've made new friends. It's been fantastic. And then finally, my students. And I'm always learning from my students. I'm sure everybody feels the same way. But I was really pleased to have shared this common experience with them at the museum, and that was something very new for me, and I loved it, and I'm looking forward to continuing to do that, not only at the Museum of the American Indian, but other museums as well. Really, since we have such short time here, and I'm not complaining, but I just wanted to point out two things, and what I wanted to focus on is the importance of learning outside the classroom. I think it was more rewarding and beneficial than I had expected. And also, I wanted to point out that these exhibits had, I guess, an unintended result, and that was on students thinking about their own identities. And if obviously everybody here knows that Montgomery College is really, really diverse, 170 plus different countries that are here, and I just found that really, really interesting. Socio-Cultural Anthropology is the study of human society and culture, and in this course we introduce students to the general findings and principles of anthropology, and the ones that I've put up here have to do specifically with race, and we all know these by now, but that race is this cultural construction and not a biological reality, that race and ethnicity are often used interchangeably, that it's a recent invention, and that racism still exists today. Because anthropologists have traditionally focused on indigenous peoples, I thought that presenting this project through the Museum of the American Indian would be fitting. The study of non-Western peoples really forms the foundation of anthropology as a discipline, so we're able to cover that in the course as well. and I'll just keep going quickly, but American Indians are indigenous peoples, and since Europeans made contact with the Americas, there's been this uneven and unequal relationship between the different ethnicities. In class, we deal with the difference between race and ethnicity, and I was able to present these themes in class, but then also at the exhibit Our Lives. I've relied a bit on the book The Ethnic Myth by Steinberg, and I've just taken two quotes from the book. One is that when the racial worldview is operant, there can never be an alteration of an individual's or group's status, as both status and behavior are presumed to be biologically fixed. And I found through the years that race is the hardest concept to teach to students because it is a worldview, and I think it's hard for students to think any other way. I actually was dealing with this topic this morning. So anyway, immigrants were disparaged for their cultural peculiarities, and the implied message was, you will become like us whether you want to or not. When it came to racial minorities, however, the unspoken dictum was, no matter how much like us you are, you will remain apart. And this is something the other speakers have shown as well. This is the National Museum of the American Indian. And we actually had a meeting up there in that room. It was one of the most impressive parts of last year, actually. Introduction to Socio-Cultural Anthropology is really about humanity's similarities and differences, how to understand these differences, and how to see ourselves more clearly and fairly in the process. And I think by having students actually enter the exhibit Our Lives, I was able to accomplish this, and I really think that this is at the core of this course. The learning outcomes for this project include more than half of the learning outcomes for the course, so it was a great combination. So using and explaining the anthropological concept of culture, distinguishing between human universals and culturally specific traits, applying cultural relativism, and also identifying and analyzing this ability of ethnicity to shift and to change. So I had the students go to the Our Lives exhibit, and this is the setting outside of the classroom. And this gets back to the point of the importance of learning outside the classroom. This exhibit shows contemporary 21st century Native Americans, and they highlight 8 different groups that are listed here. I have a quote from one of the students that demonstrates meeting the course objectives. And she said that her visit was overall a fascinating journey. This exhibit opened my eyes. This is the entrance to the exhibit, and this is entering this new setting outside of the classroom. And what I have written here, anywhere in the Americas you could be walking with a 21st century Native American, is what's up here on this plaque, in case you can't see it. And here I have one of my students, and he's coming into the exhibit. And what you can't see from this image is that if you haven't been to this exhibit, there are actually people walking alongside of you, all different kinds of people, and they're Native Americans. I thought it was a great way to enter this new context. So students are able to enter this new cultural place, and they, in their papers, expressed the satisfaction with being able to learn in this new place. There is a section on the Inuit and a sled that you can sit on, and this one student here from Chile was standing in front of the video of what it looks like to be out on the ice in the Arctic, and so that's what this image is about. This is another student taking a picture of a mask, a Yupik mask. I'm sorry you can't see what is written down here. This is a mask that has taken everyday utensils and put them together. So there's some kitchen spoons and other items put together, but it really captures the traditional with the modern. And he wrote about this mask in his paper. This student has entered one other part of the exhibit, the section that focuses on the Kalinago, who are the indigenous peoples of the Lesser Antilles. And I've taken another quote from a student who said, "The museum made you feel more on the inside and let you experience for a brief amount of time what the different American Indian cultures are like." Now, the second point I wanted to make was that students were able to self-reflect on their own identities as a result of going to this exhibit and doing the assignment. And the first quote I have is from a student who's an Iranian Jew. She's a wonderful student, and she said, "My experience with this assignment at the National Museum of the American Indian was very inspiring. It makes me even more excited to pass down my culture to my children and incorporate culture greatly into their lives." And another student says, "I enjoyed the exhibit. It raised my awareness of the way cultures struggle to survive. Moreover, it made me realize that each culture is very complex, and researching the immediate perspective of a culture is invaluable. It gave me enthusiasm to research more on my own and share with others." This is a baseball hat from the exhibit. It's the Golden Acorn Casino. The Kumeyaay people relied on acorns as a staple food, but now they're using it as a symbol for their casinos. So that's what that link is. And this student wrote a very long paper, but at one part she says, "To make a long story short, this survivance done by the Kumeyaay has inspired me. I'm going to urge my family to reconnect with those who seem to be slipping away farther and farther with each growing day. I'm urged to see my 97-year-old grandpa as much as possible." And keep in mind that they did do a lot of other work. They addressed the issues from the assignment. But this was the part that interested me most because it was an unintended outcome of it. And one more student said that my experience was an eye-opener. It gave me a better glimpse of the many rich cultures that we have, especially me being a descendant of from the Aztec tribe. This experience made me appreciate my heritage even more. I believe we should try to enrich ourselves with knowledge from other cultures and try to do something to preserve them. So these students really, I think, went beyond what the message of the exhibit was. And then I was pleased because many of the students came with their families. And it's really nice to meet some of the students' families and have them participate as well. So I'll just end with this slide, but before I do, I just really wanted to thank Sarah and Mimi and Manjula and her interns and all of the curators and staff at the Smithsonian. It's really been a wonderful experience. Thank you very, very much.